Welcome to This Explainer. Today, I've put together a visual slide deck to walk you through a truly massive, fundamental shift in how software is actually built. We're breaking down the absolute evolution of artificial intelligence in programming. We are officially moving away from the era of manual typing and stepping into something, well, entirely new.
So think about this for a second. What actually happens when you replace strict programming languages with everyday human language? I mean, it sounds like science fiction, right? But it's not. This is a very real paradigm shift happening right now in the software engineering ecosystem, and it is completely flipping our traditional understanding of app development totally on its head.
The answer to that question is vibe coding. Simply put, it's the practice of prompting AI tools to generate software code straight from natural language intentions, rather than writing that code manually. In this new world, you aren't acting like a typist, meticulously punching in syntax all day. No, you're acting way more like a director on a movie set, simply telling your AI crew exactly what you want to see on the screen.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is renowned computer scientist Andrej Karpathy, who actually coined this quirky term back in February 2025. He perfectly described this new era as a time to fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. It's basically a strategy where you, the human, focus entirely on the intent and the end result, while the AI handles all the heavy lifting of the syntax and logic.
As you can see here, if we compare the two, the traditional coding world on the left is rigidly focused on strict syntax, rigid rules, and just a ton of heavy manual labor. You literally have to know exactly how to speak the computer's language. But on the right, vibe coding operates on a fast, problem-first approach. It is highly dynamic and completely driven by intent. You focus on solving the business problem, and the AI just generates the structure to make it happen.
Okay, let's dive into this and look at how it works in practice. IBM has actually laid out this brilliantly crisp 5-step framework for implementing vibe coding. First, you select an AI coding platform. Think Cursor or Claude Code. Second, you clearly describe your intent in context. Third, you let the AI generate the initial draft. Fourth, you iteratively refine the software. And finally, step 5, you rigorously validate and secure it.
But, here is exactly where a lot of people trip up. A simple prompt just isn't enough anymore. To get code that is actually useful and not just technically correct in some vacuum, you absolutely have to master what IBM calls context engineering. You need to feed the AI the business problem, the architectural rules, the existing repository codebase, the security policies, and the operational scalability needs. Without all that context, your AI will just flat out fail. To really wrap our heads around the power of this, let's look at a fascinating real-world experiment conducted by a tech creator on the Datacroft Studio YouTube channel. They set out to do something pretty wild. Use the AI platform Claude Code to build a complete, fully functioning HR performance review web app from scratch in just 30 minutes, without writing a single line of code manually.
So here were the requirements. They needed 3 distinct roles: an HR admin who could assign reviews and view a data dashboard, a manager role who could securely log in, score employees from 1 to 5, and leave comments, and finally, an employee role to securely view those personal results. Ordinarily, building this from scratch with full user authentication and database management would take a seasoned developer weeks.
So how did they pull it off? The creators simply opened Claude Code, pointed it to a totally empty folder on their desktop called Employee Evolve, and gave it natural language instructions. That's it. They just typed out what they wanted in plain English, outlining those roles, the login requirements, the dashboard, and just let the AI start working its magic in the background.
But hey, software development is rarely perfectly smooth, right? After about 30 minutes of the AI generating the app, the creator went to run the program in their computer's terminal, and boom, massive terminal error. Now, in the traditional coding world, fixing a back-end error like this requires deep debugging knowledge, poring over messy logs, and manually tracing syntax issues. It's a headache.
But remember, this is vibe coding. Instead of panicking, the creator used this highly conversational debugging process. They literally just copied the red error text from the terminal, pasted it directly back into the AI, and effectively just said, "The code you made has an error. Fix it." No tears, no late nights digging through stack traces. The AI immediately understood the problem, rewrote the faulty code, and gave them the exact command to get the app running perfectly.
And that iteration process is just as seamless for visual issues too. When the creator finally logged into the app, they noticed the text color on the dashboard was way too dark and hard to read. Again, no digging into CSS files to find the hex codes. They just prompted the AI with, "Fix the font color so it is clearly visible." And just like that, the AI updated the user interface instantly.
And if that wasn't impressive enough, the creators showed off a second use case.
They wanted to build a whole learning management system, an LMS, with user profiles, core structures, and video uploads. Because the AI already fundamentally understands what a standard LMS looks like, the creator built the entire functional web app in 30 minutes using essentially just one single sentence of instruction. The sheer speed of this prototyping is staggering.
Section: The Catch, Security Debt and Limitations.
So the crucial point is this rapid development style brings some very real dangers. When you let AI generate thousands of lines of code without manual validation, you build up what experts call security debt. We are talking about AI literally hard-coding passwords and API keys directly into the app, creating massive vulnerabilities to SQL injections, leaving APIs completely unsecured, and building applications with way too many privileges.
This creates what's known as enterprise risk amplification. Look, a quick prototype is basically like a paper airplane. It's fast, it's cheap, and it's totally fine for just testing out an idea. But the danger happens when that vulnerable AI prototype is accidentally pushed into a live, mission-critical enterprise production environment. We're talking about an environment that manages highly sensitive customer information, financial details, or even medical data. The risk there is immense. And this brilliantly illustrates why the industry is already moving away from the simple prompt-to-code era, where AI just spits out raw code snippets, and shifting heavily toward autonomous engineering. In this future state, your intent goes straight to an AI agent that manages the entire software lifecycle for you. It doesn't just write code, it plans the architecture, runs automated security reviews, tests for vulnerabilities, and deploys it all safely.
Which brings us to our final question for you to ponder today as we wrap up these slides. Will AI ultimately replace developers or simply elevate them? We might very well be looking at a future where a traditional 10-person development team becomes a single, highly skilled autonomous engineer, someone whose sole job is directing, orchestrating, and validating an entire crew of AI agents. The vibe coding revolution is absolutely here, and it is entirely up to us how we direct the show. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.